Hi, I'm Ryan Szymanski, curator for Battleship New Jersey Museum and Memorial, and today we're going to talk a little bit about drones. Drones have been in the news a lot lately, so I want to talk about the Battleship New Jersey connection and want to talk a little bit about what we know and what we can guess about the types of drones that we're seeing in the news being used over Ukraine, and what that means for the future, and maybe give you guys some extra information for as you hear about these things on the news, some background into what they mean and where they come from. Battleship New Jersey has operated drones throughout most of her career, if you can believe that or not. And by drones, I'm referring specifically to unmanned aerial vehicles. During the 40s and the 50s, these drones were rocketed off of the fantail on a special cart, and they were primarily used for anti-aircraft gunnery training. They can be remote controlled, and they're just buzzing around up there, and you're shooting at them with the ship's guns to get training. Prior to this, you would do a towed sled, i.e. an aircraft would get up and would have a cable attaching like a big canvas cloth or something, like those planes that fly around the beach with a "Will you marry me" sign on the back of them. And you would specifically be shooting at that sign. Now, obviously, this is endangering the plane and the aircraft, and the introduction of the VT fuse during World War II made this even more dangerous, because now instead of just throwing up a barrage and hoping the enemy plane flew through the flak, you can deliberately engage these targets, and it became very, very common by 1944, 1945 to shoot the cable that is towing this, and that's a little bit too close for the pilot's comfort, and so they transitioned into unmanned vehicles. Of course, by this time, remote-controlled vehicles were already starting to be used in other applications. I mean, even Joseph P. Kennedy, brother to President John F. Kennedy, dies in a plane crash where they were trying to take off to get the plane to a point where it could be remotely controlled, an early use of drones in World War II. So as far back as when the battleship is first in operation, you see drones in use. Then, of course, in the 1960s, you've got Dash helicopters, which are an anti-submarine drone that can be launched from destroyers. Battleship New Jersey was not equipped to carry any of the drones, but during her 1960s reactivation, they did install a drone control room. So one of the destroyers that had a hangar and a helicopter, and we've talked about this in other videos, check out this video down below from the destroyer USS Joseph P. Kennedy, named for the Kennedy that died in the drone crash. So check that out for more information on that. But as early as that, they're using unmanned drones. The Dash helicopters would have been launched by one of the destroyers that were with us, and then our control station could have taken over control. And they were not the anti-submarine variant, they were a new variant called Snoopy that was supposed to be for forward observation, i.e. you fly this drone over a target, it's got a camera on it, so you can do bomb damage assessment and see where your shells are landing and adjust your fire accordingly. And we've got no evidence that this was ever used. Battleship New Jersey was originally supposed to be escorted by other ships, but that didn't really end up happening during Vietnam. There wasn't much of a risk, so she operated independently. And there were so many forward observers during the Vietnam War that we've got no evidence that they were using drones. Other helicopters, aircraft, and people on the ground did a lot of the observation work for the battleship that we are aware of. So she is equipped to use these drones, and they probably did some in gunnery training prior to her deployment. But then, of course, the big use of drones comes during the 1980s with the RPV Pioneer, that's remotely piloted vehicle. It is rocketed off of the fantail of the ship, right where we are nowadays. Goes up and flies its mission. It's going low, it's going slow, but it's still a very small aircraft that's hard to see. And then it comes back in and basically crashes into a volleyball net for recovery. Battleship New Jersey does have the drone control station for that, still on board, although it's been largely gutted. And we're interested in getting an RPV drone or control equipment if we can find one. These RPVs are, of course, famous for their use during the Gulf War on Missouri and Wisconsin, during which Iraqi units surrendered to one of the drones that they knew was overhead, even though they couldn't necessarily see or hear it. But they did know that more 16-inch shells were incoming, so they're waving white flags to this drone. It's the first time in history that people surrendered to an unmanned vehicle. That drone is preserved at the Smithsonian, and depending on when you're watching this, it may be on display or it may be down for conservation. So, that is really the beginning of use for modern drones in warfare. Those early RPVs were unarmed. They were just doing gunfire spotting for the battleships. I am not aware of any other vessel during the 80s or the 90s that was deploying drones. The battleships were the only ones that had long-range guns that needed to be spotted for like that. However, anybody who watches the news for the last 20 years has seen the proliferation of drones being used both for observation and tracking targets and surveillance, but also armed with weapons able to strike targets. We're seeing this in Ukraine, specifically used by the Ukrainian military to defend their country. So the types of drones that the Ukrainians are primarily using that you're seeing about on the news nowadays are called Bayraktar TB2. So these drones are able to carry weapons. They are unmanned combat aerial vehicles, UCAVs. Ukraine bought somewhere between a dozen and 2 dozen from Turkey over the years, and even got a license to produce them locally, although I'm not sure if anybody is sure whether they're making their own yet or if they're still using that first dozen or 2 that they had bought from the manufacturer. So this is a Turkish drone that has actually seen significant use over the last half decade in places like Syria and Libya. Now, it has been extremely effective during those conflicts, and there have been a number shot down, but analysts expected it would not be effective fighting a peer adversary. So it's fine when you're fighting asymmetrical warfare against terrorist organizations or rebel groups, or however you want to label the various non-government forces that are involved in uprisings in these countries, because they don't have that many guided missiles and radar systems and whatnot to detect and engage these. And they're still shooting them down with small arms fire and shoulder-mounted weapon systems. So there was a thought that the Russian military was going to be able to just chew through Ukraine's drone inventory in no time at all. But that isn't what we're seeing. We're seeing that there is a huge problem with Russia's military doctrine. And in a couple of years, we're going to see a complete change in their doctrine based on the experience that they're getting right now. And frankly, that terrifies me. So, what is Russia's current doctrine? Russia's doctrine is to use ground forces. And in particular in Ukraine, this doctrine should work really well. Ukraine is the breadbasket of Europe. It's just one flat wheat field from one side of the country to the other, with the Dnieper River cutting the country in half. So Russian ground forces should be able to just roll across the country. Their air force is designed fairly defensively to protect their own airspace from NATO attacks. So if American fighter jets fly over Russian airspace, their fighter jets are able to come up and intercept, and they've got some really good frontline fighter jets. And more importantly, they've got over 2,000 of them. So that's a big deal. But in offensive operations, they're not multi-role aircraft that can support the troops on the ground with bombing raids and things like that. Their troops on the ground, and even their own air defense, is supposed to be supplemented by ground-based anti-air missile launchers. And so they've got this pretty sophisticated air defense network to detect and engage enemy aircraft from the ground, to supplement their own aircraft, which are qualitatively below the aircraft standards of Western countries. So this is a huge problem for them in Ukraine. Their own fighter jets aren't really able to defend offensively. They're not playing a huge part in this war, it seems. So they're expecting to use their ground-based systems. And the whole thought, what analysts thought, was these ground-based systems are pretty sophisticated. They're going to be able to detect and engage the drones. But they aren't. The Ukrainian drones are absolutely chewing through Russian ground forces, according to reports we're getting. Today is March 3rd. We are 7 days into the war. There is no concrete information. But what we're seeing on the news are all of these blown up tanks in columns. And there is a belief by analysts that the Ukrainian drones, or the Ukrainian piloted Turkish-built drones, are accounting for this. And honestly, if the Ukrainian drones are doing this, the Russian military would have a heck of a time against NATO. Whenever you turn on the news, you hear about this 30-mile-long convoy that's approaching Kyiv, or these various supply convoys that are miles and miles long. Well, these are groups of trucks and armored vehicles on a road in a straight line. And that is what NATO militaries are designed to engage. The whole idea during the Cold War was that these Russian convoys would come through the Volga Gap into Western Europe, and we'd send up my beloved A-10 Warthogs and other aircraft, and they would just strafe in a straight line and absolutely chew through these. We see this in the 1991 Gulf War. Entire Iraqi columns destroyed. Check out this footage of what became known as the Highway of Death, where we just absolutely destroyed the logistics trains of this army coming in. This is Soviet technology that the Iraqis were using. Very similar, albeit less modern technology to what the Russians are using today. And so we're seeing that modern air defense networks are not coping with drones. We've even seen this with our own Navy. There was a news report that came out maybe a year ago about unknown drones swarming over an American destroyer off the coast of California, and that destroyer basically not being able to do anything. They were small enough and, again, unknown, so they couldn't engage them, and a swarm like that would pose a major threat to a large, expensive manned vehicle like that. And so Russia is learning some very important lessons that during their procurement in the next couple of years is going to lead to a complete change in doctrine to be more drone heavy and to be more defensive against drones to protect them against this in the future. The United States military has severely downsized our use of tanks, with the entire U.S. Marine Corps getting rid of their tanks, while Russia continues, up till now at least, to focus on this ground-based, tank-based army. And that is not going to be the case in 5 years. So hopefully the United States and our allies are going to be able to adjust right alongside with the Russians and do not continue to prepare for a Cold War-style ground battle. So, what are some major doctrine shifts you expect to see in the next couple of years? The Western countries have always focused more on their tactical and strategic air forces to defend against ground-based systems, whereas Russia and former Soviet bloc countries have tended to go in the opposite direction and focus on ground-based systems to protect against air. It looks like we have several examples now of this not working. So what are some other lessons you think we're learning from this war, and what are some things you expect to see in the future? I guarantee you we're going to see a proliferation of unmanned vehicles and assets that are able to carry and launch these vehicles. I wouldn't be surprised if future aircraft carriers are armed considerably with drones within this decade. And it's interesting to think that this whole trend starts back with battleships like New Jersey. This archaic dinosaur of a weapons system was using state-of-the-art technology like that is now coming into its own. Battleship New Jersey receives operating support from the New Jersey Department of State, also from a number of other businesses and private individuals. We really appreciate your support. You can continue to support us by donating at the link below, and by liking, sharing, and subscribing so more people find out about our channel and our museum. Thanks for watching.